Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day number 778, Saturday, May the 11th, 2019. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, let's go ahead and get started today. We have, this morning I should say. Let's go ahead and get after it. Some pretty interesting things to talk about today. No major new bombshell revelations per se, but just some things we covered over the past week that I want to dig into a little bit. Particularly this Kathleen Kavalik situation. It's getting a little stranger as the days go on. Just some more on... oh yeah, we do have a new revelation today actually from Judicial Watch, which goes back to the Benghazi stuff and more evidence of how corrupt in fact, the Obama administration, I mean, you know, we talked about the Spygate story, and of course Obama's involved in that, we know, although the primary focus is on the FBI, the CIA, and all the foreign assets and private intelligence, the spooks and spies and agent provocateurs and all these things. But Obama has managed to stay pretty much in the shadows for this thing. Now there are some things coming out that is starting to show what is pretty obvious, that you cannot run this type of an operation without the president knowing about it. But other things are being unearthed now. We're learning that Obama knew, that Obama, his administration, was not just, all the spying and surveillance didn't just begin with Trump. That was actually going on as long as 4, maybe 5 years ago, probably throughout his entire administration. He was doing this stuff. It's just that it got ramped up and kicked into high gear when the Russia situation came about with Trump and everything else in the 2016 election. And it's largely the delving into the Spygate thing is likely to expose possibly, if you can imagine such a thing, a larger conspiracy, which is the larger conspiracy of the overall approach to using government agencies to weaponize and politicize things in the government. And so this conspiracy just continues to balloon out and get larger and larger and larger. The more you dig, the more you find. You know, it's like it's like a dinosaur bone hunt or something. I mean, it's just the more you dig, the more you find. So we're going to get into some of that. But let's go ahead and start with the first story of the day, which is featured on Conservative Treehouse, and it begins with this story about Lindsey Graham sending a letter to Pompeo and IG Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz. So just kind of let me read for you just this brief introduction, and then I want to try to dig down into this a little bit and kind of see what you guys think in a way. I kind of want to check the comments section and see kind of what you guys are feeling on this particular matter, because I'm not 100% sure I know what to feel about this matter yet. I think I need more information, but let's go ahead and get started here. So, as is pointed out in the Conservative Treehouse, Lindsey Graham Friday sent a letter to Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz and Mike Pompeo, who's of course Secretary of State, to point out that Kathleen Kavalik, the Kathleen Kavalik memo, he wanted to make sure that they are considering it in their investigations. So here's Lindsey Graham writing this letter to Pompeo and specifically to Horowitz saying, hey, I know you're in the middle of investigating all this stuff. I just want to make sure that you didn't miss this little jewel right here. You probably already have seen it or looked at it, but in case you haven't, you need to take a look at this particular memo, this letter, and anything else that you can find from Kavalec, any other communications you might find with her communications to these heads of the FBI or whatever, and what she's saying here. Because it's just more evidence that the FBI knew that Steele was compromised, as was his material, and that he was in fact flat out lying, making up things, and making assertions that aren't true. But more importantly, in addition to all that, he also reveals some new information, including that he was actually in contact with members of Congress on the Democrat side. So Lindsey Graham basically sending this letter to Pompeo and Horowitz, advising them that he wants to make sure that they don't overlook in their investigations the importance of the Kathleen Kavalik communications and her meeting with Christopher Steele. And he also points out the fact that the fact that in this memo, Kavalec is telling the people she sent this to, which we are told by John Solomon, who says that Mark Meadows told him that these communications that Kavalec was writing were going to high-level FBI officials. I think he said very high FBI officials. I think that we can take from that Comey, McCabe, probably Baker, some of those people. So Graham is pointing out that in her memo, she says that Christopher Steele is saying that the Russians had a plant inside the DNC. And Graham is asking, isn't it kind of strange that they had this information, but as far as we know, there was never an investigation into the Democratic National Committee to find out who the Russian mole was? Doesn't even appear that there's any interest in it. Uncle Bob didn't seem to have an interest in it. The FBI, no shit Sherlock Christopher Wray, Comey himself, McCabe, Strzok, none of these people seem to have any interest at all in the fact that there was a Russian spy inside the DNC, if in fact that's even true. I don't believe that myself. Maybe there was, but it probably should be investigated. A lot of what Christopher Steele said, most of what Christopher Steele said, was bullshit. So, to me, when I read this now in retrospect, I think, well, it was probably just another line of bullshit by Christopher Steele. But at that time, you remember at the time this is happening, all this stuff is going on. And they get this information. Yet they have no interest whatsoever. If anything, that is the time when they should have said, okay, now we're going to go get them DNC servers and we have a reason to do it. This would have been the perfect opportunity if they wanted those servers to say, okay, now we got some evidence or some information that there may be a spy in the DNC, a Russian spy. We need to get into this and we probably need to look at those servers. And maybe that's the exact reason why they didn't want to pursue this, because they knew that it would certainly be logical in the progression of their investigation, if they're going to investigate whether or not there's a Russian spy at the DNC, that they're certainly going to want to go ahead and take a look at those servers, right? So that may have been the reason why they didn't want to look at it. Because remember, Kavalec, in real time, we're talking about this now in 2019, but this is what was happening in the second week of October in 2011 or 2016. This is what was happening in the first week of October in 2016, a critical time. This was 10 days before they get the FISA warrant on Carter Page. Things are at critical mass. Trump is literally even with Hillary in the polls now. Hillary's got this email investigation going on. All this stuff is swirling around. The Wiener stuff is going on. It's no longer looks like the Reverend Clinton is going to walk away and win the election going away. And now it looks like it's going to be a dogfight, and it's going to come down to the last vote. And they're supposedly terrified about, Russians infiltrating the campaigns and, Trump and Russia collusion and all this stuff, even though I don't believe they ever really believed that was true. But if you take this and put it in context in the time frame of everything else that was going on, this certainly should have made the FBI say, okay, we need to go, down to the DNC and we need to start questioning some people. We need to find out what's going on. If there's a Russian spy in the DNC, maybe that's how these emails got leaked. Maybe they actually had a Russian inside the DNC, and he got downloaded this material and passed it on to somebody. So there should have been a lot more interest in this particular revelation and Kavalec's letter to these heads of the FBI, which we can assume, again, had to be Comey, McCabe, maybe Strzok or Baker or somebody, Rybicki. These would have been people at the top of the FBI. So now Mark Meadows knows. Mark Meadows knows. He just can't say. But he says it was the very highest level of the FBI. Well, the very highest level of the FBI would be describing the director, the assistant director or deputy director, the general counsel, people like that, Rybicki. So it would have been these people would be who we're talking about. Yet no interest whatsoever in looking into investigating the spy in the DNC. I mean, if they're investigating everything else that Steele's telling them, even though it's bullshit, They're supposedly investigating Michael Cohen in Prague. They're investigating whether Carter Page is talking to these two Russians who he was later told were Russian intel agents. They're looking into all these other things, but all of a sudden they have no interest in the fact that there may be a Russian spy on the inside of the DNC. No action taken whatsoever. You see, there's a lot of problems here. So look now, as far as Kathleen Kavalik, here's where I'm not 100% sure. I know where this is, where this is coming from, because here we have, and here's what I want you guys to kind of think about for a second. Here we have Kathleen Kavalik. We know that she was a donor to Hillary Clinton's campaign. We know that she was a donor prior to that to Obama, his campaign. We know that in 2011, Hillary Clinton approved promoting Kathleen Kavalik in the State Department. And we know now that she was the deputy assistant, pretty high level, probably in the top 5, maybe top 10 people at the State Department during the time that the Right Reverend Clinton worked there, and I suppose for several years afterwards until she became an ambassador. So here's Kathleen Kavalik. Should be someone on the team with the Right Reverend Clinton. She should be on the team of here's some information, damaging information on Trump, and she should have been on that team based on what we see here, that she's a donor to Hillary, a donor to Obama. You would think that she's on the team. But what happens? Well, we now know who it was that set up the meeting, or who it was that prompted Kavalec to talk to Steele. And that person was Jonathan Weiner, a Hillary confidant. The same Jonathan Weiner who was in the chain where the Shearer dossier made its way into the equation. Shearer, who solely, exclusively is a hatchet man for Hillary Clinton. Solely a hatchet man for Hillary Clinton. A dirty trickster, kind of like a Democratic version of, say, Roger Stone. Even though Stone says he's not a dirty trickster. Okay, so anyway, Shearer, Hillary's hatchet man, comes up with the Shearer dossier. He gives it to Blumenthal. And this had to be on Hillary's direction. These guys wouldn't be doing this without Hillary directing it. So Blumenthal then goes and he gives it to Weiner. And because Weiner could get it to Steele. Who would know that? Hillary would know that. Blumenthal probably wouldn't, probably didn't even know Weiner. Or if he did know him, maybe in passing. They don't run in the same circles other than they are both connected to Hillary Clinton. So Shearer gives this Shearer dossier to Blumenthal, who then passes it on to Weiner, who then gives it to Steele. Then Steele pipelines it 2 different directions. He pipelines it to the FBI, and he pipelines it through the State Department, through one channel. Then at the very same time, Weiner takes Steele information while he's doing the handoff of the Shearer dossier. He takes additional information, and he goes to Victoria Nuland, his boss. She's also Kathleen Kavalik's boss. And Victoria Nuland, of course, spends most of her time in Europe or at the UN. She was the UN European. She was head of European affairs for the State Department. And so what happens? Nuland gets this information, the Steele dossier information, from Weiner, which has just been given to him from Steele. I mean, Weiner's literally passing off the Shearer dossier to Steele. Steele's going, thank you very much. I'll include that in my stuff or I'll pass it on. It does. It gets passed into the FBI. Shearer to Blumenthal to Weiner. I mean, yeah. What's his name? Yeah. Cody Shearer to Blumenthal to Weiner to Steele. Steele passes that into the FBI. And then through another channel, they'll go to the State Department. Then he, at the same time, gives information to Weiner and says, hey, the next time you talk to your boss, let her have a look at this, who he knows is Nuland. And he knew he would get some eyes on it from Nuland because he had already written about 100 papers research papers for Victoria Nuland and the U.S. State Department on European matters, particularly Ukraine. So then Weiner passes this to Newland, and what does Newland do? Well, Newland looks at it and goes, Newland's smart enough. Now, keep in mind, Newland's dirty as hell. She is a liberal, a Democrat, a Clinton supporter, but she's most importantly a hardcore neoconservative. She is a hardcore neoconservative. So what does she do? She looks at it, says, "Man, this is some crazy stuff, and it's also stuff that we probably shouldn't be involved in." In other words, Newland looks at it, and something inside of her, knowing her level of experience and things like that, she smells a rat. She don't feel it's a gut thing for her. She just looking at this stuff and going, I don't know about this stuff, but all I know is that we probably I don't want to be handling this. And she just wants to be rid of it. She's probably wishing that Weiner hadn't even given it to her. She just doesn't. It's like, okay, I don't even want to be part of this. Okay, pass this to the FBI. This is something the FBI should be dealing with. This is not something we should be dealing with. We want nothing to do. Let's wash our hands of this document altogether. Just get it away from me. I wish I'd never seen it. Get it away from me. So Newland, she rebuffs it. She wants it gone. She's not going to act on it. She's not going to do anything with it. So we're told that she either passed it directly to the FBI through people working under her, or she passed it to Kerry and he went to the FBI with it. But either way, it leaves Newland and it finds its way into the FBI. Okay, so we kind of know on that angle, Kavalec's boss has already seen this information. This is what's important here. Kavalec's boss, Newland, has already seen this, and she wanted nothing to do with it. In fact, she even said, this could even put us, if we even start playing around with this, like investigating this or doing anything about this, we could be in violation of the Woods Act, or the Logan Act or something. So she's all concerned about or the Hatch Act, not the Logan Act, the Hatch Act. She's concerned about Hatch Act issues just by having seen it, let alone acting on it or doing anything with it. She just wants to be rid of it. She's like, okay, this is FBI stuff. Forget it. She's rid of it. Okay. So based on that, here's what we know. At this point, this happens in the month of Newland is getting this information about the latter part of July. She wants nothing to do with it. Okay. And then here we have, a month and a half, 6 weeks later or so, Steele getting very, very desperate. We find out that from this recent memos from Kavalec that she has this, October 11th meeting with Steele, which we now know was set up by Weiner, or at least ways it was Weiner who told Christopher Steele. And I'm sure that Steele called Weiner and probably said, "Hey man, what happened with that stuff I gave you to give to Newland?" And he probably said, "Well, I gave it to my boss, Newland, and quite honestly, dude, she didn't want anything to do with it. Okay, she just she rejected it out. I mean, she didn't even comment on it. She just said, okay, this is stuff that we don't deal with. This is FBI stuff, intelligence stuff. This is not what we do. It could even be a violation. Get rid of it. Get away from me." At which point, Christopher Steele probably got mad. He probably said, "Damn, what's going on here?" And he said, "Is there anyone else that I can go to?" And my guess is Jonathan Weiner probably says, "Well, there is someone else in D.C. at the State Department there who I know is a friend of Hillary, is a supporter of Hillary, a team player. Why don't you go talk to her? Maybe she can do something." At which point, this is how this meeting gets set up, which occurs on October 11th. And Steele goes and talks to Kavalec. And as we know from the memo, what does she do? Well, she doesn't do what we would expect she would do. What we would expect she would do is what he asked, which is he was asking her to somehow push this through the hierarchy of the State Department and see if they would somehow get this information publicly released one way or another, legal or illegal, however they do it. Just get the stuff out. Hey, I got a deadline. He's frustrated that the FBI is not leaking it fast enough. He's frustrated the media won't put it out. Newland rejected it. He can't get his stuff out, and he's on a deadline. I don't know, maybe he's getting a bonus, or maybe he doesn't get paid. I don't know. But either way, what does Kavalec do? Well, she doesn't play ball, even though she is a Hillary supporter. Instead, what she does is, instead of doing what Steele asked her to do, passing it up through the State Department, she instead takes everything that Steele told her, puts it all down in a memo, points out the obvious erroneous accusations made in it, points out the fact that Steele is highly political, very angry, and probably not someone that she would trust as far as she could throw him. And she's telling this to the highest level officials in the FBI, which we can assume is like Comey and McCabe and Baker and Rybicki and those characters. So she didn't stay on script. She got off script. She was supposed to pass this up the chain of command in a very partisan way, in a pro-Hillary way, in a Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy theory way. It was supposed to work its way in that direction. But she does something completely different. She says, man, this guy's a bit of a flake. He's kind of angry. He's very political. And some of the stuff he's telling me is just crazy. She knows it's crazy just from having a conversation with him. And he apparently can't not produce any evidence, and he's telling her things that she knows clearly are not true. Russian embassies in Miami. There's not a Russian embassy in Miami. So she obviously is able to sniff out Christopher Steele very quickly. And she doesn't play the game. She doesn't do what he asks her to do. Instead, she does the opposite. She sends this stuff to the FBI and says, hey, if you guys, I don't know if you guys know about this guy, Steele, but he's obviously trying to get this document released, his political document. It's a smear campaign, obviously, against Trump. Not that we love Trump, but, I mean, let's face it, this guy's kind of crazy. He's angry. He's political. He's spinning wild conspiracy theories. You guys might want to be on the lookout for this guy, Christopher Steele. So she's basically blowing the whistle on Steele to the FBI. At the very same time, she has no idea, at the same time that the FBI is using all of his BS to get FISA warrants, or preparing to use it to get a FISA warrant in 10 days. They've got Operation Crossfire Hurricane, which has just started, or is about to, well, yeah, actually had started before that. Had started before October, long before October 11th. That started July 31st. So they've already got this investigation underway based on Steele. They lie and say it's about Papadopoulos, but it's based on what Steele told them. So, anyway, so then this document is finally discovered in a FOIA request. And once it comes to light that this document exists, and no shit Sherlock Christopher Wray sees what's in it, what does he do? He retroactively classifies it. It was unclassified before, and no classification. It was just maybe something confidential or whatever. Easy classification you would get through a FOIA request with maybe some mild redactions. Christopher Wray, no shit Sherlock Christopher Wray, literally redacts 95% of it and then seals it for 25 years. Clearly, he's trying to hide it. He's playing hide and seek. And I certainly hope that Barr by now has called him into his office and said, hey, why are you playing hide and seek with me when I'm in the middle of this investigation? This is important stuff. And then he goes, 2 weeks later in front of Congress, just a couple of days ago, he's asked if he's aware if the FBI did anything, that wasn't above board. And he says, well, I'm not aware personally of any information that the department did anything, that was not in accordance with the law. Literally, just as we're finding out that he did this with this document to cover it up. He's playing hide and seek. He's a liar, and he should be fired immediately. I hope Barr recommends to Trump. I hope Barr just says, man, I don't have any confidence in Wray anymore. He's playing hide and seek with evidence. I don't think he's being straight with me. We need to can his ass. And they should. I mean, he's a deep stater just like all the rest of these people. Where did Christopher Wray come from? Christopher Wray, well, he worked for the law firm that Sally Yates currently works for. It's a Democrat, leftist activist law firm in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where Christopher Wray came from. And his most recent case, prior to joining the FBI and becoming the director, he was defending Chris Christie in his Bridgegate scandal. So he's not the right guy for the job. Certainly not at this time. That's a fact. So here we have Kavalec. She presents a very strange situation, I think, because of all the players that we see who fall right in line and join the conspiracy and take part in the conspiracy to try to destroy Trump and elect Hillary. Here's one person who is appearing to be at this time, and this is where I kind of want your input. Do you guys, what do you think? I'm not 100% there, but it certainly looks like she wasn't on the team. It looked like, yes, she donated to Hillary, she donated to Obama, but when, when it came down to actually doing her job as a professional in the State Department, and she was met with someone like a Christopher Steele, she didn't jump on the train and stay with the team and do anything like that. What she did was the opposite. She blew the whistle on him to the FBI. So at this point, you almost have to look at Kavalec as a straight shooter and an honest government employee who did the right thing. Clearly, she's pissed off an awful lot of people in doing so, including the rotten Reverend Clinton, who promoted her back in 2011 and probably helped her get the position she's got. So she'll probably be getting some hate blown her way. But I think what's most important, that one of the more important things here, not the most important, but one important thing that's not really being focused on very much is how this meeting came about and who must have originated it, and the fact that the role that Hillary Clinton had to play in all this happening. But I mean, if Hillary Clinton told Weiner, yeah, why don't you have her? If Weiner went to Hillary and said, yeah, we gave it to Nuland and she dropped it like a hot potato, she just wants to forward it to the FBI, she don't want anything to do with it. I don't know if Hillary said, well, here's someone else that you can try to pass it through or something like that. So I'm not sure how much Hillary had to say about that, but Hillary is certainly was driving this whole train at this point. So is this a case of someone within her orbit going rogue because they realize, you know, hey, I'm into something here I don't really want to be into. I mean, I want to see Hillary win. I donated to her, but I'm not into this kind of thing. This is like coup stuff. This is like crazy stuff, and I'm not going to get. So it may be very likely that Kavalec smelled the rat here and said, you know, I see myself. Almost, she must have felt like she was being set up in a way. Like, why would someone send this guy to my office to prompt me to make this move with this kind of garbage? Where's this coming from? Someone sent this guy to my office, and if it's Weiner, who does Weiner essentially work for? Hillary Clinton. So did Hillary direct Weiner to go to Kavalec after Nuland rejected what they wanted her to do? And Hillary thought that Kavalec would fall in line, and Kavalec ends up not falling in line? Is that what happened here? There's a lot going on with this, and that's why I say, just as Lindsey Graham says in his letter, that there needs to be a deeper dive into exactly what's going on here. And as I keep saying, it's just a matter of time. We are going to find the deep and direct ties from the rotten Reverend Clinton to this whole plot. And because every time you turn around and another person of interest or another situation of interest pops up that we talk about here, there's always a connection to Hillary. Always. No one in this entire plot is someone who doesn't have some connection to one of the Clintons or both. It really needs to be looked at. No question about it. So just want to check the comment section and get your thoughts. You guys think Kathleen Kavalik is a straight shooter? Do you think she got cold feet and wasn't decided she wasn't going? She smelled a rat, got cold feet, and wasn't going to, you know, subject herself to possibly being involved in something she shouldn't be involved in? I mean, what do you think happened here? Do you think the rotten Reverend Clinton prompted all this? Be interested in what you guys are thinking about this, because, you know, there's a lot of information out there. Maybe you have some information I don't have, but just from what we talked about at this point, just to be interested in your thoughts on where you think this is. Okay, I spent almost all the video talking about that. I didn't mean to. I meant to spend about 15 minutes on it. So there's a lot going on with it, though. So let me try to get a couple of other things here real quick. Comey was doing another interview. This time, he did a town hall type thing, and he literally says that he did everything by the book. He did everything by the book. You got to be kidding me. He did nothing by the book. I'm not sure what book Comey's going by, but he definitely didn't do it by the book. But he takes it one step farther, which I think is very interesting. Something we haven't seen him do too much of. He called out Peter's Been Stroking Us and Loose Lisa Page, and he says that essentially that they did irreparable damage to the FBI and that they trashed the FBI. So here's Comey. He's now saying, yeah, and that Strzok and Page, boy, they did a lot of damage to the FBI. I did everything by the book, by the way. But Strzok and Page, boy, they did irreparable damage to the FBI. You know, and the goofball, what's his name, that's interviewing him there from CNN on this town hall, the guy with the gray hair and the glasses, whatever his name is, the guy who's an heir of the Vanderbilt fortune. Forget his name, the gay guy. He's just sitting there like a dummy. You know, I mean, letting Comey just feed him this garbage doesn't challenge him at all on anything. He just lets Comey just sit there and spit this crap out and never challenges him on any of it. So now we have Comey targeting Peter's been stroking us on Lisa Page as being the bad guys, while he did it all by the book. I'm pretty sure, my friends, that Comey had to know what Lisa Page and Peter's been stroking us were doing. I mean, they were running the damn counterintelligence operation. How does the FBI director not know who's running his damn counterintelligence operation? It's impossible. Had to know. McCabe is in charge of them. And he's talking to Comey every day. I mean, Comey is literally, I don't know what you call it. I mean, you have to be like get a diagnosis. I mean, there's something going on. Comey needs a checkup from the neck up, because things are not together in Comey's mind. At this point, I'm starting to think the guy's nuts. Okay, completely crazy. Because how he can keep a straight face and say this stuff, I don't know. But man, he's got a lot of problems. I just don't know what more to say to any of that. And it's funny because Mark Meadows was asked about this particular interview, and he said, we had Comey behind closed doors testifying, and believe me, he loves to go out and talk to all the left-wing media outlets and talk to all these people. You won't see him talk to any conservative or Republican reporter, that's for sure. And Meadows said when he was here for our committee and we interviewed him behind closed doors, about 90% of the questions we asked him, he said he didn't know or couldn't remember or couldn't comment. He literally answered 10% of the questions and played dumb a lot. That's what Meadows said. The guy Meadows. So he just played dumb. He's not going to be able to play dumb in front of a grand jury. It's not going to work. Okay. Had a bunch of other stuff to get to here. I maybe got time to hit one or two more quick points, and then we'll have to just pick it up tomorrow. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have some new court documents showing that the Rotten Reverend Clinton received thousands of dollars from this sex slave cult that is currently being prosecuted in the state of New York. These contributions were bundled and presented to the candidate, Hillary Rotten Clinton, at a fundraising event personally by this woman, Nancy Salzman, who's this wealthy New York elitist who was one of the top tier bundlers and organizers, bundlers for Hillary donations, and one of the organizers or participants in this human trafficking, crazy sex cult slave deal that they had going on in New York amongst New York elitists. Now, aren't the Clintons New York elitists? That's very interesting. And then we have Rudy Giuliani. He is headed to the Ukraine. He is going to go and investigate what went on in regards to two specific things. Number one, the Biden stuff that's going on there, and also the Ukrainian involvement in the 2016 election. Of course, they just had an election there. They have a new president. He will take office here, I think, in the beginning of June. He officially takes office. His name is Vladimir Zelensky. He's the president-elect. Giuliani is going to go talk to him and tell him that he would like to assist him in any way to try to get those investigations reconciled with the DOJ on the Ukrainian election interference and U.S. persons that may have been involved in that, as well as the Biden investigation that was shut down. So Giuliani is getting ready to get involved in it, and you can bet he's going to be reporting back to Trump firsthand. So anyway, there we go. That's what's going on there. We have another important story regarding Judicial Watch and Obama. We have some other interesting things I did not get to, which we'll certainly pick up tomorrow. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you guys. Bye.